Howdy friends, thanks for joining us for this month's update on our livestock markets. I'm Colter Brown from the Northern Ag Network. You know, in the month of June, we traveled around the region quite a bit, and it was just fun to see how different the conditions are compared to a year ago. 6 inches of rain in 1 month will do that, you know. Fun to see the optimism from producers as things are green for a change, the grass is coming on strong, and boy, these prices blowing last year out of the water. Not to say there aren't challenges, definitely seeing more hoppers than we want to, and of course costs staying elevated, but from a market perspective, it looks like cow-calf producers are going to be in the driver's seat for at least a couple of years. Today we're going to recap the start of the summer video sales season, talk about the roller coaster futures have been on, look at how beef demand is shaping up, and discuss the sheep market that's starting to show some signs of life. Want to start out though thanking our sponsor, Ag Risk Advisors. With as high as these prices are, it's as important as ever to protect the ranch from the risks associated with drought and markets, the two biggest factors that are out of our control. Whether you're thinking about livestock risk protection or pasture rangeland forage insurance, reach out to Ag Risk Advisors and they'll help you design a risk management plan to fit your operation. Well, a month ago when we spoke, it looks like we were at the peak for live and feeder cattle futures and they were going to come down. But actually, the first couple of weeks of June saw the cattle futures just surging higher until they ran into some profit taking from traders and more importantly higher corn prices. But we did rally at the end of the month, but still a few dollars off the highs. In a month-over-month comparison for the feeder cattle though, we still gained ground, especially on those deferred contracts for 2024. They're over $245 right now. Now this spring, as USDA was talking about increased corn acreage, higher yields, and the potential for record production, we did see corn prices moving lower through the spring, but then some drought concerns started popping up in the Corn Belt, and that caused futures prices to spike. Each time though there's rain in the forecast, we seem to see a big sell-off in corn. Right now, new crop corn sitting at about $5.60, but that could change depending on the time of day that you're watching. Now comparing the drought map this year to last year, great to see the improvement in the west, heck of a lot better conditions, but like we talked about, you can see some dry conditions developing in the Corn Belt there, and we may not have seen the end of cow culling in states like Kansas and Nebraska, and that could keep corn prices higher than we'd hoped. Now much like the feeders, live cattle started the month of June surging higher, but those gains did slip away as things wore on. That's partially due to increased seasonal supply of front-end fed cattle. That's giving packers a bit more leverage. Live cattle, though, quite a bit higher in the month-over-month comparison, $4 to $5 better. And when the cattle on feed report, we saw a surprising increase in placements. Actually, that increase double what was expected by analysts. Still, though, the supply of feeder cattle outside of feed yards just isn't there to replace the fed cattle supply. And it looks like, again this year, we're seeing cattle pulled forward and sent to feed early. I will mention as well that the on-feed inventory as high as it's been in 6 years. Well, cash-fed cattle also started the month surging higher. By the end of the second week of June, we were seeing dress sales at $3 a pound and live cattle at $1.90. Now, of course, they followed the futures market lower, and CattleFax says we could see more pressure as the summer wears on. They're expecting summer lows in the mid to upper 160s. Now, I've been surprised to see wholesale beef prices as strong as they've been. Really, there in mid-June, we saw the choice box beef cut out over $3.40 a pound. Of course, it did move lower as things wore on, but still those are historically strong prices. And of course, there's definite concern about how inflation will affect beef demand. You can see retail beef demand is below the last 2 years, but above the 20-year average, and that beef demand is expected to improve as the summer wears on. Exports will help to take some of that product off the market, but exports are down 9% year to date on a tonnage basis. We expected them to be lower, and that's a little more than we expected, but of course with less beef being produced this year and it being at a higher price point, that's lowering exports, and I will mention we are seeing higher imports as well. But now to the part that everyone wants to hear about, the video sales season. Of course, Northern Livestock Video and Superior Livestock both holding their first sales for the month of June, and wait a second, those are the wrong prices. I got the wrong prices on the screen there. Those are last year's prices. Okay, I'm being a bit facetious here, but I did want to compare to last year's prices, just the sharp increase that we're seeing. On the light calves, we're talking 80 to 90 cents higher, tops over $1 better than a year ago, and some of the heavier calves 60 to 70 cents better. So that's 30 to 40% higher above last year. You know, on a 5-weight steer, we're talking more than $400 more than we saw a year ago. Now, the Northern Livestock and Superior sales were actually pretty comparable in prices, and I think that's important to note because the Superior sale took place while the futures were surging. The Northern sale, though, happened after we started to see the market pull back. However, buyers that are sourcing cattle for fall delivery didn't seem to back off on those prices at all for the calves, and they performed pretty strong. Between the two sales, I'd say the 5-weight steers average right about $2.90 with highs over $3, especially look at those heavy 4-weight steers. They were well over $3. 6-weight steers largely $2.60 to $2.75, 7-weight calves for fall delivery $2.50 to $2.75, and for the yearlings for summer delivery, 8 weights $2.20 to $2.40, 9 weights $2.25 to $2.38. Obviously, with the prices so strong, we're seeing a steeper discount on the heifers. That spread has widened, but heifer is still 70-80 cents above a year ago. Now, a couple things to watch for in these video sales. I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see as much of a premium on the value-added program cattle, just as hot as this market is right now on steer calves. And in the Northern Livestock video sale especially, we noticed that the discount on calves that only have one or no vaccines was definitely a little bit sharper. Now, whether we're talking vaccines, weaning, or program cattle, that's a marketing, a production, a management decision. Doesn't work for every operation, but buyers are willing to pay for calves that are straightened out and have a lower health risk. Now, as we look out to the video sale season coming up here in July, of course, we'll start with Cattle Country Video, and they're going to feature mostly yearlings in that sale, and then we'll move into the big multiple day sales with Western Video Market, Superior, and Northern Livestock Video. But you look at just how much this market has climbed since the start of the year, and it's hard to say where's it going to go. I get asked that question a lot of time, and your guess is as good as mine. Starts to feel like at times that this thing is so hot it may have to cool down, but fundamentally, I just don't see a lot of downside price risk for these calves. We're going to continue to shrink this herd here over the next year or two. We'll start to retain heifers and further reduce beef production. So as long as beef demand holds in there, I think we could be setting record highs multiple times over the next couple of years. Now turning to our local auction markets, of course, we're starting to slow down there, entering the summer schedules where a lot of markets will go to sales every other week. The weigh-up cow prices, though, at our stockyards definitely staying strong. We're seeing a lot of cows selling well over $1. Bulls pretty firm, especially the bigger bulls in the $120 to $130 money. And there in Torrington, we saw some young cow-calf pairs top out at $3,300. Well, wrapping up with the sheep market, we are starting to see some signs of life, a light at the end of the tunnel. Prices getting a little better, especially as we work through that on-feed lamb inventory. It's as low as it's been in multiple years. We'll continue to work lower through the summer before starting to increase in the early fall, but that is helping these prices. Not doing much for the slaughter ewes yet. That price has stayed pretty steady, and lighter lambs do seem to struggle increasing at all, but the heavier lambs doing a lot better. At the public auction yards, we saw 80 to 100 pound lambs selling from $195 to $211, and finished lambs in Sioux Falls in a pretty similar range, increasing quite a bit over the last month. Well, thanks so much for joining us for today's report. It's fun to provide some positive news for you and talk about these higher prices. When we come back in July, we'll have more video sale results to talk about, and we'll look at the semi-annual cattle inventory report. But until then, from all of us here at Northern Ag Network, have a happy 4th of July, and we hope you cut some big hay crops. Take care.